Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Belle, and I am a fiber artist coming to you from the greater Cincinnati area where I live with my husband and our two cats. This is episode 2 of the Beauty and the Sheep podcast. So if you are joining us for the first time, I'd like to thank you. And for those of you who are coming back with me, thank you for watching. It means a lot to have you guys come join me for a little bit of knitting chat. So today I'm going to discuss some of my works in progress, as well as a finished object that I have, which I'm super excited about. And today is April 29th, and here in Cincinnati, it's a little bit cloudy, so we're not working with very much natural light over here. So I apologize if the lighting is not the greatest, but we've kind of got an overcast day for sort of getting towards the end of spring. So at least end of spring here in Ohio, which is kind of a running thing because if you know anything about Ohio, our seasons like to play jokes on us quite a bit. So I'm going to jump right in today with a little bit of administrative chat. So just to start out, there's not a whole lot to update in my running the castle section. I had intended to record before this. It's been about 2 weeks since I recorded the first episode, and there were some life things that got in the way, which I'll discuss later on. And yeah, other than that, I had intended to try and learn a little bit of basic editing for this podcast, and that also didn't happen because life things got in the way. So we're just going to keep rolling with it. I'm super excited to be recording and getting to talk to you guys a little bit more again. So I am going to jump right in with some works in progress that I have, and let's get going. So the first work in progress that I have is actually something that I showed in the prior episode. It hasn't had very much progress on it, I'm afraid to say, but this is a pair of socks for my husband, and I have nicknamed these the Midnight in the Swamp socks because of the color. This is a Schoppel Boots color. It is colorway number 2385, and it is a merino nylon cotton blend. So I have started the heel flap on these. Sorry that they are coming up very dark on camera, but they are green and brown and purple and blue with specks of white. And I'm just doing a slip stitch heel on these. This is my go-to heel when I am knitting socks for my husband because he wears his socks all the time. And so they see quite a bit of wear and tear. And I find that this heel holds up better. I tend to do about 2.5 inches of a heel flap when I do a gusset heel for him. He has a very high instep, and I find that doing that gives him the room that he needs. So not much progress on these. They've just been living in my purse, and I get a row or two done here or there. I find that when I do a heel flap, it tends to take me a while because I only do a row or two here or there until I kind of get it done, and then move on. So once I get past the heel, I'll zip along on these and he will have a pair of socks in no time. But I just got to get through that heel flap. So I'll show you. That is what it looks like in the cake. So he really likes socks that have bamboo or cotton blended in, just because they soften up really, really nicely and are very comfortable to wear. So that is those socks. So the next thing that I have been working on that has been seeing quite a bit of work is my Knotty gloves. And these are by Julia Mueller. And I'm knitting them out of a skein from Dream in Color. It's the Dream in Color Smooshy. And this is in their sparkle base. So yeah, these, I discussed these in the last episode. I have a friend of mine who purchased this yarn and requested that I knit her a pair of gloves. And this is the first time that I've done gloves with fingers. So these have been seeing quite a lot of work over the last 2 weeks as I have just kind of tried to figure out how this finger situation works. Not as bad as I was expecting. I actually quite enjoyed it. I'll try it on here for you so that you can see. And the reason that these only have one end where they're currently at, and I'll explain all these ends in just a moment, is because her fingers are slightly smaller than mine. And so I knit them based on the size of my hands and kind of estimated where to end the fingers for her. And I got to see her yesterday. We had a baby shower for her. She's expecting her first little girl, which we are all very excited about. And so I had her try them on at the baby shower, and they're actually a little bit too short, which was what I was worried about. So the reason that I have all these ends hanging off here was because as I was knitting the individual fingers, I left a little bit of extra yarn on each one so that if I had to undo the decreases here on the very tips of the fingers and add a row or 2 or 3, I would be able to do that to lengthen them for her. So I'm going to go back and do that, and then I am going to finish the thumb on them and do the second glove, which is, I won't show it here today. It's just about right there. So looks about the same, but has some really lovely cables on it. These have been an absolute joy to knit, both because the yarn has been phenomenal and the pattern is very well written. I want to make a pair for myself. So that'll be happening after I get done with hers. And I don't remember if I said, but this it's Dream in Color Smooshy, but it was a pop-up Skein colorway from November of 2018 that I got from my local yarn store. So I don't know if there is access to any more of this yarn, but Dream in Color has some just lovely, fun colorways. So these mitts, I'm sure, would be great in any of their yarns. I love that this one is sort of a variegated yarn, but comes up kind of subtle. It's not a high contrast variegated, so it's it blends really well with like doing cables and things like that. And I love the fact that the fingers ended up actually striping a little bit. I think that that is so fun. So that is those gloves. So I'm hoping by the next time I record that I might have those finished. Might, if it ends up being in 2 weeks, maybe. So we'll see. But yeah. The other work in progress that I have that has been seeing quite a lot of work this week is a shawl that I started. It was just a bare little bitty thing of a start, so I did not show it on the first episode, but I've made some progress on it now, and I am happy to get to show it to you. So this is very wibbly wobbly is what this is. Here we go. Here we go. There we go. This is the Easy Goes It shawl. It is by Finicky Creations, and it is a free pattern on Ravelry. Yeah. It is a shawl. The pattern that I have printed out, unfortunately, doesn't have a picture for me to show you, so I'm not able to show that, but feel free to go look up Finicky Creations on Ravelry, and you will find this shawl under Easy Goes It. And it's just a texture changing shawl. So it starts out with some garter stitch. It is worked side to side, and after a while of doing that, you kind of change to this stockinette section that has these ridges in there. Sorry if you can hear the needle scraping on the table. And yeah, so it just changes textures throughout the shawl. It's pretty potato chippy knitting. I was just looking for something a little bit simple to work on. in between trying to figure out the fingers on those gloves. So I just wanted something a little bit mindless that's good TV knitting or good at work knitting. I'm fortunate in that I work at a job where I can actually knit in downtime after I've completed my tasks. So this is a good one to carry to work with me. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the needles on that glove. I'll get to that in just a moment. Those are Haya DPNs in US 1.5 for the Knotty knits. And the needles that I'm knitting this shawl on are my ChowGoo interchangeables, red lace, and they are US size 5. So my ChowGoo interchangeables are my go-to interchangeable set. So I knit a lot of my projects on these. I just love the ChowGoos. I have tried a couple different brands, and this is my come back to it again and again and again set of needles. So the yarn that I am knitting this out of, so pretty, is actually a gradient cake. And this is from, I believe it's pronounced Wools. Wools, and it's Wools Yarn Creations. And there's their tag with all their information on it. And the colorway is the Orchid Medley color. Kind of goes from the almost bronzy gold here in the center out to a darker rose and to a very faint pink. And this yarn has a very interesting structure to it. It is 100% cotton, but if you look at the plies, I can get it up close enough for you to be able to see that. It actually is not twisted very much. It's a 4-ply. And it does not really have almost any twist in it at all. And they do that deliberately so that they can get this really cool gradient effect where they change the colors through single plies to be able to create the gradient, which is really neat. And a lot of people would be very concerned about this being splitty while knitting it. I do find that I have to pay a little bit of attention. I am knitting this continental with my left hand. I knit both ways, but with this, with shawls and things, I really like the tension that I get with my continental knitting. It's just a little bit looser, and I find I have better drape that way. So I have to pay a little bit of attention to make sure that I'm not kind of like zipping along it and missing a ply. But overall, it's not bad. The twist goes into it as you are knitting. And so because of that, you can pretty much treat it like a normal light fingering weight. I would say there's about 480 yards in a cake for 100 grams. So that's kind of on the lighter side of a fingering weight. But yeah, they do a lot of these really cool gradients. There's actually one sitting behind me right there that I'll talk about plans for later. But yeah, just a very interesting construction. It's 100% cotton, so there's not very much elasticity to it, and that's something that should be kept in mind, especially if you have any kind of difficulties with your wrists, because the yarn doesn't have a lot of stretch. I find that I can knit on cotton for a while or cotton blend, but then I kind of need to go to something a little bit more elastic to give my wrists and my hands a break. So, but I am definitely enjoy working with this. I have got to see the creator of this yarn. I got to meet her at the Worcester. I lied. I got to meet her at the Yellow Springs Fiber Festival that is here in Ohio, and got to see some samples of some shawls knit up in this, and they just have an amazing drape quality to them, and they're really, really lovely. So I've been wanting to do a shawl for a while, and I thought I have quite a bit of this in my stash, so I will go ahead and give it a shot, and so far I'm really enjoying it. So that is my second work in progress, and those two have been seeing, the gloves and the shawl have been seeing probably the most amount of work, but I do have a few other things that I've been getting a little bit done here and there on. And yeah, the next one that I have to show you is my Coziest Memories blanket by Kemper Wray. So this is what I've got on it thus far. I know it's tiny. Believe it or not, I actually started this not this past January, but the prior January of 2018. I started my Cozy Memories blanket when I had a abdominal surgery for a birth defect that I had that was discovered later in life. And I needed something at the time that was just fun and easy while I was recovering on the couch to work on. And so I started my Cozy Memories blanket. Yeah, after I healed from that surgery, I did not work on this. I really enjoyed it when I was working on it, but yeah, I don't know. I just kind of tucked it in a bin with a bunch of minis, kept adding to the minis, but never adding the minis to the blanket. And yeah, on top of that, I am trying to overcome my OCD tendencies with this project because it was bigger than this at one point. It actually was probably about double this size, and I just did not like the way that the colors look together. And I know the point of this project is to not think too much about what's going where and all of that, but I'm failing at that, and I own it. So, but yeah, this is where I'm at. I've picked it back up this week. I want to add some more to it. I want to get back into it. These 4 squares here were my very first ones. And I know what some of these yarns are. I don't know what other ones are because they came from a lot of minis were given to me by a coworker at a yarn shop that I used to work at. So I'm not familiar with all of the brands and names, but I'll tell you the ones that I do know. This one is a colorway from Fiber Optic Yarns here in Ohio, located in Milford, Ohio. This is the Thunderstruck colorway. I believe that this colorway has changed a little bit over the years, but this was the original incarnation of it, and it's actually the colorway that I knit my very first pair of socks out of, which I'll show at some point on the podcast. So that was my very first square that I did because it was a very significant yarn to me, and I love it. I mean, just look at that. Oh my God, those bright oranges. Kemper knows her colors. That's all I can say. Like, just beautiful colors that Kemper has. And then I don't know these solids that are in here. As you can see, I am kind of alternating sort of solid colors or like very semi-tonal with highly variegated. And I do intend to keep up that pattern throughout the blanket. But I don't know what the solids in here are. Like I said, they came from a gift and didn't have labels. So I'm not sure what those are. This one is marinated yarns. And it was a mini that she sent me with an order for some yarn that ended up becoming one of my wedding shawls. I'm not going to show any of the wedding shawls today. I think I'm going to wait till next episode and show some more of those. But this mini she sent in there as a little bonus, which was very sweet of her. And I love it. It kind of makes me think of like cotton candy. And I love the sweet colors. So... And then the last one that I have here that I do know where it came from is this one. This actually came from Bitter Buffalo from a sock blank that I purchased while at the Worcester Sheep and Wool Festival. I think it's called the Great Lakes Fiber Festival is the official name for it. But most of us around here locally just call it Worcester because it's located in Worcester, Ohio. So... yeah, I had a sock blank that I knit into a little one skein shawl, and this was it was a gradient sock blank. I think that there are pictures of it on my Instagram, and this was the very end leftover bits. So this doesn't show the whole progression of the gradient, obviously, but I just thought that the lovely little pink and like highlighter, and it truly is highlighter. I don't think it's coming up very well because of how cloudy it is today, unfortunately. But it is a very bright highlighter yellow, and I adore it. I just think it is so pretty, and I was glad to have just enough to get this square in there because it literally only left me with a little tail for weaving in. So that one was fun. And then the last one that I am working on here that is just a little bit of a row. You can barely see it there. Yeah, I don't think you can pick up the fact that it's also sparkly. This nugget actually comes from Legacy Fiber Arts from a mini pack called Shrunken Heads that I got while I was in Rhinebeck last year. And this is just some leftovers. I am knitting a sock head hat that is currently marinating. It's been languishing for a little while. I need to get back to it and finish that hat. But this was the leftovers from one of the colors in that. And I just thought it was going to fit in very, very well with this bright blanket. So that's my next square. I am shooting for a goal of trying to make this blanket a lot of my bright colors. I found that when I had some more muted tones in there that I just wasn't happy with the way that they were looking next to each other. So while I'm trying to loosen up my OCD, at the same time, I want this to be a very, very bright blanket, very neons and just a lot of happy colors in here. I just like the way they look together. So I'm having fun on that. I have my next couple squares planned out. I don't know if I will show this every time unless I'm making some significant progress on it since I am still at the beginning, but we'll see. So Coziest Memories by Kemper Wray on Ravelry. So my last work in progress for today is actually also something that's been languishing for a little while, and it's kind of a work in progress. It's also kind of some finished objects. I'll just show it to you. It'll make way more sense when I do that. So I have this pile. And this pile is dishcloths. But they're very specific dishcloths because these are baby dishcloths. So this is something that I started on springtime last year. I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought a whole bunch of Hobby Lobby I Love This cotton, which is my favorite cotton to use for a lot of things. I don't just use it for dishcloths. It's a very soft cotton. It makes really great baby dishcloths or baby washcloths, actually. But it just has a lot of fun colors. It's very smooth to work with. And I do really love that cotton. So I started these last spring when I had several of my sister-in-laws. I don't believe that I mentioned, but my husband is one of 7 children. And he's the youngest of 7, all boys and 1 sister. So when I married him, I gained a lot of siblings-in-laws, which was a great blessing. But a lot of them are very close in age, and a lot of them were beginning to start families around the time that he and I were engaged. So I had this grand notion in my head that I was going to knit a whole bunch of these baby washcloths, and whenever somebody was having a baby, I would simply grab them out of a bag and off they would go for a great little baby shower present. I failed. A lot of them had their children while these were in various states of being done. Like, I'm doing the same thing on each one. They are different patterns. I'll show you each one individually in a moment. But yeah, I didn't stick with it. And that's okay. That's fine. Other things were giving me joy to knit on, so that's what I did. But all of the patterns for these come from this book. This is Baby Washcloths to Knit, and it is by Melissa Bergland Burnham. So this is a great little book that has all of these really adorable patterns on it. I think that I've had this book for years, and I'm pretty certain that I got this when I was a newer knitter. My mom got this for me from a yard sale. Yeah, that's where this came from. My mom got this for me from a yard sale. And I just held on to it because I thought a lot of the patterns in it were really, really cute. There's a butterfly and a bottle and a boat and all kinds of different things for babies. And I never got around to knitting from it because there weren't a lot of babies being born in my life at that time. So when a lot of my sister-in-laws were expecting, I was, there were a lot of babies coming at once. And I thought, hey, that's brilliant. So yeah, I started working through this book and trying to knit. I believe that there are 9 patterns in this book, and they are written, not charted. I don't know if you can find this book on Amazon or try and look it up, but that is the name of it. If you can find it, I highly recommend it. They are adorable. They're easy. They're fast. They make great baby gifts. If I had actually given them for gifts. So, but yeah, so I pulled this out because I had this whole bag with all this cotton in it, and I had these in various states of finish, and I decided that I wanted to wrap them up and get them completed. So I'll just show you the ones that I've got. I've got this adorable little butterfly in this cute little pink. So these all do have the same cast on number. I am knitting them on a size 7. I believe most of them have been knit on my Chow Goose. When I started them, I don't remember if I started them on my Chow Goose, but I have finished them on my Chow Goose. So there's my butterfly. They've got a garter stitch edge, and the texture is done with purl stitches. This one's a little bunny, and I've got a marker here just to show where I am going to sew a little pom-pom on for his tail. I've got this little ducky. Some of the ends aren't woven in on these. There's a reason for that, and I will explain that in just a minute. It's a ducky in a little pond. There is a stork, which also has a marker because there's going to be a little ribbon that goes on that. You can either choose a white ribbon or do like a little ribbon that says it's a boy or it's a girl, and I just think that that idea is very, very adorable. So, and then this one, it's a little sheep. This one actually does have its little bow on it. And this one is a little baby carriage. They're so cute. These are so fun to make. You just can't help but smile. I mean, if you're not into kids, then I guess that, they won't make you geek out, but I totally love kids. So I'm like, these are adorable. I just geek. This one's a little baby bottle. This is actually, I believe, the first pattern in the book. So it kind of starts you out with something pretty, just to get your feet wet if you have not done this type of pattern before, where you're sort of making a imprinted image using the stitches. So, and the last one is a little sailboat. This one I had actually knit before, this pattern. When my mom was expecting my younger brother, I was 14 and I was a brand new knitter at that point. I had just learned to knit when she was pregnant with him. And she got me this book. She might have actually gotten it for me to kind of tell me to make her some baby washcloths. I didn't get the hint, clearly. But I did get some yarn. I think it was just an acrylic yarn from a big box store, or maybe Myers. The Myers local to us had a pretty good yarn selection at that time. And I knit this little boat washcloth, but then I added a strap to it with a button and actually turned it into a bib for my younger brother. I don't think that she ever used it. I think she put it in sort of his little memory box, but I had actually knit this boat before, and it's a lot of fun. It's very easy. So these are definitely very beginner friendly. Like I said, I was 14 when I started knitting, and this book was, these little washcloths were a great way to sort of get my feet wet with understanding my knits and purls and casting on and casting off and all of that kind of stuff. So these were definitely a good pattern to start getting some very solid skills basis down. So yeah, that is all that I have for works in progress currently. So I am going to move on to my finished object this week. There's only one, and it's not a very large finished object, but it's finished. So this is my February hat. I showed this in the last episode, and at that time, I believe that I don't even think that I had folded the brim over in the last episode. I think I just had the tube to be able to fold the brim. So I got the brim folded and started on the textures in the hat, and this is what it ended up looking like. Open it up a bit so you can see it. It's a little bit damp still because I finished this about 2 nights ago and laid it out to block, so it's not quite 100% dry. But yeah, it is this gray color with these awesome sort of pastel-y rainbows, and I absolutely love. I think it is so fun that the textures, as they change and the gauge changed, it switched the way that the rainbows were pulling. So you've got some sort of like swipes going on, and then you've got like these big swaths, and then some of these, like this particular texture, I mean, it's so subtle you can barely see it, but it almost, the way that it did it, because it had some elongated slip stitches in it, caused it to almost kind of speckle, which is really cool. And then in the crown, that's kind of what you got. It's not exactly that it swirled, it kind of speckled and swirled because the texture actually continued up in the crown, which was really neat. I have not done a crown that continued texture. I've done cabled crowns, I've done, just plain decreased stockinette crowns. This is the first one that actually continued a texture in it. And I think it's just really neat. So I enjoyed this. I do intend to knit again. I think it would be a great gift knit. And yeah, so it just went through, it's almost like a sampler hat. Like it went through a bunch of different textures. They were charted, so I think that it had written and charted instructions to it. I follow charts, so that's what I did, but I think that it had both, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, so it has a folded over brim, which is super easy. If you haven't done that before, it's not anything to be intimidated by. Try it on. So yeah, I did my brim a little bit longer than what the pattern called for because I really like my ears to be quite covered with a folded brim. And I love the fact that you can kind of, like if you don't want as much rainbow to show, you can kind of pick which sections show. So yeah, it's a very fun hat and very squishy. It's so squishy. I kind of want to just snuggle up with it. But I think that's a combination of the textured stitches and the yarn that I used. This yarn is FaireGrl yarns. I got this from a local shop in Columbus called Yarn It and Haberdashery. And this was her worsted base, which was 100% superwash merino. And it was in the Stormy Cumulus colorway. So yeah, it's a very fun knit. I'm very happy it got done. The brim took me a little while, but then when I went to go do the body of the hat, I finished it in one night, which I've done before with worsted weight hats. It's been a while, but just a couple of hours of sitting in front of the TV, and this hat just felt like it flew off the needles. I did have to wait to do the crown decreases until I went to a yarn shop to get myself a couple of DPNs. I don't have a full DPN collection. So I kind of pick them up as I need them right now. And usually for DPNs, I get Hiya Sharps. So this was knit on a US size 7. The brim was done on a US size 5. Do a smaller needle for the brim and a larger needle for the body of the hat. And I used my, I have a interchangeable set that is a specialty set for just 16-inch needles, which I use pretty much exclusively for hats. And that set is the Royale needles. So they are a wooden needle with a metal tip. And yeah, like I said, the set I have, it just is 16 inches. It's specially designed to just do 16-inch length cables. So I use that for pretty much all of my hats, and I really, really love it. So that's my Cumulus hat. It'll go into storage for a little while because since springtime is here and we're going to be into the summer soon enough, I won't really be able to wear it, but that's okay because I just love knitting hats. I think they're a great palette cleanser. So that is all I have for actual knitting this week. Well, this last 2 weeks. It feels like it wasn't very much compared to what I normally get done. Kind of, I guess I had a couple weeks of bad luck is what I had. A couple days after I recorded the first episode, I actually ended up injuring my shoulder somehow. I'm not entirely sure what I did to it, but I had about a week where I was kind of out of knitting commission. I was having a lot of pain in my right arm shoulder that was kind of migrating down my arm into my hand. And I do occasionally have hand and wrist pain flare-ups. I haven't had them checked out. I think it's just an overuse type of thing. Normally a day of resting and I'm back to normal. But this time, it just didn't seem like my arm was getting better. And so at work, because I work at a front desk as a receptionist, typing was really uncomfortable and knitting was really uncomfortable. And it just was all around not really great. So fortunately, I work at a massage studio. So my therapists do a lot of therapeutic massage. That's kind of what we focus on. And I had a couple therapists take a look at it and kind of do some poking and prodding. And one of the therapists noticed that I had kind of knotted up my rotator cuff, which is kind of back here in your shoulders. So he did some work and got some knots to release in there, and that made my arm feel a lot better. It was still a little bit uncomfortable, though, to knit. And I thought, okay, well, I'll keep icing and add heat to it. And I think it was a day or so later, I went into the other studio that I work at because I do work between 2 studios currently. And one of the therapists there saw me icing my shoulder and kind of asked what was going on. And she asked if she could take a look at it. And she actually did some work in the area that's known as the subscap or subscapula. That's kind of, you go in through here underneath your underarm. I find the anatomy of massage really, really interesting. I've been working in it for 2.5 years, going on 3 years. And massage can do a lot for you. If you've never had a massage and you have kind of, any sort of pain, I'd say give it a try. Sometimes if it's muscular, a therapist can really help you relieve some of that. And I'm a very firm proponent of massage therapy. So she actually did some work in that area and got some more knots that had kind of built up in my muscles to release. And almost instantly, I felt so much better. So I'm not sure if I was just doing too much around the apartment cleaning or what exactly I had done, but I'd messed up my arm a little bit, and they kind of got it to feel better, which was really, really great. And I greatly appreciate my coworkers who are willing to help out when you've got some aches and pains. So so that kind of put me out of commission for a little bit. And following that happening, we had a weekend. I won't get too much into the details, but we just had kind of what I call newlywed chaos, where we just kind of got hit with a couple of life events that happened. Like I said, I won't go too much into them, but they did kind of put things on pause while my husband and I figured out a couple of things that we needed to take care of. Just in minor, there were some car issues that happened and some work scheduling issues that happened. So just a couple of things. We're working through it. Everything's going to be all right. But it did kind of put a pause on me getting a chance to record, which is why this episode is coming out later than I was expecting or wanting to be able to post it. So that's kind of in life. I'm actually grateful that I did get to record today. I really was planning for it. And this morning I woke up and they were doing construction in the apartment below us. And I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to record today. And I was so heartbroken. But fortunately, it seems like they were just doing a little bit of work this morning. And now that it's kind of quieted down, I hopped right on here, even with it being cloudy outside, because I wanted to get this recording out. So that's kind of what has been going on in life recently. I don't really have any treasury acquisitions, nothing really new that's come in. I do have a few plans for the future, though. So I'll share some of those with you. That is what this pile right here is. So after the baby shower yesterday, I kind of got the mojo back to start knitting on some baby items. I love knitting baby items. I love knitting baby blankets to give to people. It's just one of my things that I really enjoy making. I enjoy, being able to see a new niece or nephew get snuggled up in, something that I've made for them. So I'd been kind of off of my baby mojo for a little while. And after, with my friend who's expecting her first little girl, and after the baby shower yesterday, I just kind of was like, I want to get back into knitting all the baby things. So that's why I got these washcloths out and finished off some of them that just had been kind of sitting there waiting for their last few rows or a cast off, or I should say, I forgot to mention with these washcloths, something that I do. I talked last episode about how I like to do a provisional cast on so that I can make my cast off and my cast on match in stretchiness. And these are a project that I do that on. It might seem a little bit overkill or a little bit silly with just these baby washcloths, but I really do like having my edges match. It's just one of those things that I just like to do it. I find that the extra time pays off in the finished project. So I do a provisional cast on for these, and then I go back and I pick up the stitches and I cast off on the cast on edge the way that I cast off the cast off edge. That was a lot of the word cast in a minute there. I hope that made sense. But so a lot of those had not had their provisional cast ons pulled out and a couple of things done to them. So I just kind of finished those off just last night. I think what I'm going to do with those is my future plan with that one is to kind of knit through maybe a few more of those, or maybe make some patterned washcloths. And then I'm thinking about kind of piecing them together and actually making a baby blanket out of it instead of just having them as the individual washcloths. I still have a lot of the cotton left over, so I'm kind of toying with the idea of doing that. And I think that I want to seam them together and make a baby blanket out of it, possibly for my friend. I haven't quite 100% decided, but it's kind of working its way around the cogs right now. But other than that, I pulled out all of these yarns right here, which I will show you in just a moment, to knit some more baby items out of. They go really fast, and even if you don't have a baby currently that's, somebody's going to be having, at some point along the line, somebody will have a baby. And it's kind of a good idea to, have a stockpile. At least I found in my experience. I find I just, like I said, between my sister-in-laws, my cousins, and my family, a lot of people have babies. So, and whatever gets left over, maybe if we start a family someday in the future, maybe I'll just have some things to use. So I'll show you some of these. And some of them I kind of have patterns in mind for. Some of them I'm still searching. But this one is another one of the wools. Cotton. Color Changing Cottons. This one is the Sunrise Medley. And I think that this would make an adorable little cotton summer dress for a little girl. I think having a gradient summer little dress would be super cute. So I'm going to find a pattern for that. I'm a big fan of a lot of Tyga Hilliard's baby clothes. She's one of the designers I first go to look at. There are a few others, but she's kind of one of the early ones that when I want to go do some baby items, I go check out her Ravelry and see what kind of piques my interest. So I've been kind of browsing around on there, and we'll see what I come up with. So, and then I've got this skein. This is a Mrs. Crosby's. Loves to play. Mrs. Crosby loves to play. And this is a superwash merino, nylon, and viscose. It's a 55-15-30 blend. And I got this from one of my local yarn shops, Main Street Yarns, up in Mason, Ohio. And I bought this probably almost 2 years ago now. Actually, no, I did not buy this. That's a little bit of a fib. I actually had a friend surprise me. My friend and I went up there. She's not a knitter, but we were just hanging out, and we were in the area, and I asked her if she minded if we stopped by, and I was showing her some of the things that I do, and this color kind of caught my eye, and she surprised me by sneaking the color to the desk and purchasing it for me while I was kind of distracted off looking at some other yarny things. So it was a very sweet surprise. She gave it to me immediately. And I think I might make a little baby something. I might very well give it to her. So I really like that one. Oh, and the color is called Harper, which I think is just an adorable. It's pink with these awesome speckles in there. It's just a lot of fun. So there's that one. And then I have, from that same shopping trip, this skein. And this skein has a little bit of a knitting history to it. I had started a project with it that I ended up having to tear out for a unexpected reason. And I won't get into that too much because it's sort of a private thing that happened. It was a very tough time in my life. I tend to pour a lot of my emotions into my knitting. And this was a skein that kind of reflected some things that were going on in my life at that time. But I want to get it back out and give it new life, new love, new purpose. And it is from La Jolla, or La Jol. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I'm sorry if I'm not. Color is California Coast, and it's 100% superwash merino. So I think that giving this new purpose as a baby item would be just perfect because I love the color. It's very happy. So, and then I just have a couple of skeins here. These are more of the I love this cotton from Hobby Lobby. When I said I bought a lot, I mean like I bought a lot. It's not a good thing that I live as close to a Hobby Lobby as I do. But these are just some more skeins of some of the colors that I've done some of the washcloths in. And I actually think that I'm also going to make some baby clothes out of these. So I've used I love this cotton for baby items before, for baby blankets, for it wears very well. It's very color fast. I've found in my experience, if anybody else has had a different experience, I'm sorry. But I find for a baby blanket, it makes an exceedingly soft baby blanket. It's great for winter and summer, and easy for moms to take care of. So I think that these are going to become some more little baby clothing items. Right now I am in a very springy, summery kind of place, so I don't have a lot of blue here. At some point I will probably get some blue things going and make some little boy items to put into the gifting stash as well. So this last pair of skeins, actually these came from the Tuesday morning that is actually right across the street from where I live. It's awesome. And these are soft. It's not a brand I've ever made from or heard of. It's made in Turkey. It's a 50-50 viscose and cotton blend. They are so shiny, so very, very shiny. I don't even know that the camera's picking up just how unbelievably shiny these are. There's such a just shimmeriness on this. It's beautiful. And it is a light fingering weight yarn. There's the band. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Originally, I thought I was going to combine them and make like a one skein shawl for myself because they are 50 grams a piece. But now I'm thinking that I might also do something baby out of them. Maybe a little cardigan. A little cardigan would be quite cute and could be boy or girl. So we'll see. But yeah, like I said, I was just pulling out some skeins last night. Just some things that were kind of striking me and inspiring me. And, you know, I may have a cast on spree. Even with all the whips I already have, I may have another cast on spree because why not? You know, it'll all get done at some point. None of it's pressing other than I do want to get the gloves done for my friend and get those off the needles. But I think that will be, like I said, very soon because now I know what size to knit them. But yeah. So that's kind of everything that I have for today. The show notes will be located down below in the description bar. And if you have any questions, you can find me on YouTube here. You can always leave a comment down below and I'll try and respond to those. Or you can find me on Ravelry as Beautiful Sheep 719. And on Instagram, I actually had an Instagram name change to Belle Knits. And that is Belle spelled Belle, like the Disney princess, because that's where my name comes from. So thank you very, very much for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. And until then, have a lot of fun with your knitting and have a beautiful time. Bye-bye.